Welcome, guys. Today is obviously 11/23, November 23rd. It's currently 7:30 Eastern for both JP and I. We're actually gonna be covering a few things today. So we kind of like the format we went last time, where we did the Saturday tickers. We went over tickers or whatever happened in the past week and what we think is gonna happen next week, and then we went into topics we felt are important to talk about. So after we go over the Saturday tickers today, we'll be talking definitely about trading under an LLC, and then the future of prop trading, which involves the SEC. If time permits, meaning if we're not going on for too long, then we could possibly get into other topics such as exiting trades for a loss and how JP and I both personally deal with losses or try to avoid bigger losses. So we'll definitely get into that if we have enough time. But again, before we start any of this, obvious disclaimer: none of what we provide is financial advice or tax advice. It's all just educational and informational purposes only. We do have the disclaimer that we posted in our announcements, which you can feel free to check out before this live session starts. But yeah, this is just for educational and entertainment purposes only. But with that out of the way, I'm going to give a brief introduction for the both of us. My name is Kevin. You guys might know me as the Market Bishop on Discord. I've been trading well over a decade, 11 years now. And my partner, my business buddy here, JP, who you see as the agent, he's actually been trading for 20 years. So he's one of the very few people on Discord that I see that has a lot more trading experience than I do. The reason why we hold these is because there's unfortunately a lot of misinformation out there, and there's not enough education that should be going around. So that's why we have things like these. And the great thing is you have two perspectives here. You have you have my perspective, which is more of a technical analysis trader. It's more observations that I came up along the way, tying in with the traditional way of trading when it comes to price action and pattern analysis. And over here with JP, you got more of a fundamental analysis approach. Since he's been trading for over 20 years, he's had a lot of buddies and mentors where he's got to get a good grasp of how fundamental analysis works and how trading shares works. So he's got that expertise over there, and both of us have different perspectives when it comes to trading. What we look at when to enter and what we look at when we like things or even exit things. So it's just a good thing to get a grasp of how two people who've been trading for a very long time approach things. Because in the end, the most important thing for you guys is to not try to embody us or copy us or anybody else on anywhere on any social media platform. It's more figuring out what works for you and going along with that, right? Because everybody works a little bit differently. But we'll just get straight. We'll dive straight into the tickers part. So before we do that, I'm always going to hand it off to JP here. If you can just talk about any important data that happened last week and data we're expecting next week, and of course what the whole Nvidia earnings that happened last week means for the coming weeks.
Oh yeah, hi everyone. Let's just jump right into it. Last week was a very eventful week. Um, it was packed with a lot of economic data, but that was overshadowed by one of the most important earnings that we've been waiting for the whole year, which was Nvidia's earnings. But before we dive into Nvidia earnings, I just want to touch base on some of the most important details that happened um, with respect to economic data last week. Um, One of the first things that we were all looking at and we were waiting for were obviously jobs numbers, right? Unemployment claims. Everyone was expecting a little bit of a bigger number. We were expecting 220K, but that actually came in lower at 213, which was an interesting number considering the fact that we were expecting about 1,000 more people claiming unemployment than the previous number, which was 219. But it did come in lower, which is a signal to, once again, a signal to the Fed that the labor market continues to be strong. The Philly Fed Manufacturing Index did come in lower than expected. We were expecting a 7.4 and it came in at negative 5.5, which was a very weird number. Everyone was expecting a beat on that. But that was something that everybody was kind of like, that's a strange little thing that's going on. We did have existing home sales as well that came out on Thursday. That number was expected to be at 3.95 million. It actually came in at 3.96. So it was kind of in line. Home sales continue to, be pretty decent. We did have a couple of Fed speakers, but nothing very important, with respect to that. On Friday, November 22nd, we did have my favorite I'm sorry, my favorite gauge of the market, which is a combination of both consumer sentiment, the University of Michigan consumer sentiment, and flash PMI and services PMI. At 9:45, we did have manufacturing PMI that came in line, which was good. We did have flash services PMI that came in a little better than expected. But we did have the University of Michigan consumer sentiment, which is the best gauge to understand what's happening with the overall feeling of the economy. It came in lower than expected. We were expecting a 74.0 read from a previous of 73. They were expecting people to believe that the economy was getting better, and actually, um, it came in lower. It came in at 71.8. It's very interesting because when you trade University of Michigan sentiment into this number, the market always pumps. And Kevin and I always say if anyone's in a trade on this, you can always catch a short on it because people always sell their positions into the U of M. Funny enough, uh, a lot of people took that trade, and the market did push down and then kind of just consolidated um, throughout the rest of the day. I mean, it definitely was a down trade, and that consumer sentiment number was a reason why the market pushed down. But all of that was overshadowed by one of the most important earnings that we had, which was an um, there's nothing else mattered at that given point in that given time other than Nvidia. Nobody cared about unemployment data. Nobody cared about U of M. It was all about Nvidia, Nvidia, Nvidia. Shockingly, um, Nvidia, despite having reported positive earnings, had a massive down trade when the earnings were released. If I'm not mistaken, Nvidia dropped all the way to one. I want to say it dropped all the way to like
143.
one. Um,
Wait,
can you
hold
turn on
on.
extended trading? Can you turn on the 30-minute extended trading hours
Okay.
just so that we can see how low it went? And that was on the yeah,
Yeah,
as you
still
can see, yeah,
138.
that was at 138. So it did have a significant pullback on the read, and the only reason that it actually pushed down wasn't because they missed on earnings. It was because it was a combination of two things. Number one, they gave inline guidance for 2025, and if I'm not mistaken, the big comment that they made that everyone was like freaking out about was that um they weren't expecting sales to be as high as they had been in 2024, which is normal. I mean, the AI craze is still here, but it slowed down. Obviously, as everyone can see, what happened with Nvidia was it was a 138 bounce, and it just rallied all the way back up. It did, if I'm not mistaken, hit above 150 throughout the trading day on Thursday, and then it just pushed back down and kind of traded in this weird little area, 10-point range that it's in. The cool thing about this whole situation now is that we understand where Nvidia is at. Where actually we understand what Nvidia is doing, what they're projecting to do, and once again, Nvidia proved that it's a resilient company. There's nothing that can push it down. Um, I always I'm not a big fan of trading earnings because if you're trading options and hoping to catch a great move, this is a perfect example of what's called an IV crush, and Kevin can explain that a little bit better. But anyone who took puts or calls on Nvidia, let it be at prior to earnings and woke up on Thursday, they were either they were completely pissed because they didn't get the implied move that they wanted. So it's interesting to see how the weight of the world fell on one company and it actually did nothing. Um, that was the only real important stuff that happened. Of course, we did have a situation. in Russia and Ukraine, where obviously Biden told Zelensky that they were authorized to use long-range missiles inside of Russia. Russia retaliated by saying that they were lowering the gauge. I believe that's what Putin said. The gauge uh, of which they would use nuclear weapons. So that kind of shocked the market, which is why oil pumped a little bit. But at the end of the day, nothing has happened this weekend. Everybody shot missiles at each other, and this is just a continuous, who has a bigger you know what, and this is not going to stop anytime soon until somebody decides to just say, um, you know, let's stop
Paris
talking
is
shit in
also
the ocean.
Paris also gave France gave permission for Ukraine to use their missiles as well
Yeah, and
earlier today.
also the UK, the Brits allowed the deployment of what's known as the Shadow or the Storm Shadow missile or something like that, which is basically like the American version of like the Tomahawk. So, the tensions are high, but nothing has happened this weekend. So let's see how it all plays out. Interestingly enough, one of the things that was a highlight prior to the close on Friday was one of our dear friends, who's my mentor, and also Kevin knows him, who was a big time trader in the 80s and the 90s, and it is what it is. I won't mention the name of the company. One of the companies that him and his friends have been talking about is TPL. I don't know if you want to open that chart. TPL. Uh, TPL was a trade that we were told to buy in the 700s and is now trading at 1730, which is basically almost tripled from where we were we were given the buy alert. And shockingly, it got added to the S&P on Friday. What a coincidence, right, Kevin?
Oh wow, of course. Yeah, what's new?
You what's new, right? What
Yep.
happens when you put a bunch of fund managers that are loading up into this company? Funny story, just so you guys know the importance of being added to the S&P. I won't say names again, but just so you can understand the kind of people that we talk to. Um, the people behind this are massive, massive fund managers that are. One of them has $6.7 billion of money under management. Um, but one of the guys that's in charge of doing the analytical work on the macro and micro level for all the positions that they take, because TPL got added to the S&P, um, the majority of the funds now have to own about a quarter, I'm sorry, about 0.5%, or what is it? Is it 0.5% or 1% of their portfolio needs to be vested into all of the stocks that are in the S&P? I can't remember what the rule was, but the math is that there is about $8 billion that are still floating around that need to be injected into this company, um, which goes to show you the significance of having a company added to the S&P and the kind of moves that these companies can make, similar to what happened with Palantir. So keep in mind, whenever you're trading something and it's not in the S&P or it looks like it has the potential to be added to the S&P, always remember that there's going to be money that has to flow into the company, which is going to propel it even further up. I'm not saying that this is a buy or this is a sell because I'm not buying a $1,700 stock, but just keep that in mind whenever you're trading something that if it's not inside of one of the major indexes, it eventually does get added, that there's always going to be a bunch of money that flies into it. And this is a perfect example of a company that is heavily traded by institutions that just rallied, and then got added to the S&P. So something to keep on your watch list to just see how the story develops. Because if this goes to $5,000, you probably won't hear from me anymore because I would have jumped off the roof. But that's a different story. Um, Going into next week on the economic data front, we have a couple of important pieces of data that are going to come out. Starting with obviously the most important one is going to be on Tuesday, which is going to be new home sales. We definitely want to keep an eye on that because we want to see what's happening with the overall And on Wednesday, we have unemployment claims again, which is the most important one. And we have the preliminary GDP quarter after quarter. Obviously on Wednesday, like we always do, we have Chicago PMI and we have core PCE at 10 o'clock. One of the things that I'm going to be watching is crude oil inventories because Kevin and I are in a pretty substantial share position um, in a particular oil stock. So we want to see how crude oil inventories are doing and if that's going to help um, push our positions up. And of course, on Wednesday, we have Fed minutes, which is going to be another, volatile trading day. As for Tuesday and I'm sorry, as for Thursday and Friday, the only other important thing that's really going to come out is going to be China data, but that's really not affecting us because we're trading, I'm sorry, Japanese and China data, but that doesn't affect us because we're trading during the New York session, so that's the least of our worries. Um, but with that being said, that's pretty much a wrap for the data and some of the important things that happened last week and that are happening next week. So, Kevin, I'll let you go from here and whatever direction you want to head this in.
Yeah, so yeah, it was pretty interesting what happened with Nvidia. Time back to that, because if you guys remember from last week, I am not really fond of the fact that people think that. I mean, it's the truth, unfortunately, but people think that, or people know that the quote unquote the market health depends on how well Nvidia does in their earnings, and whenever you have that, it's just not great. It's just there's too much weight on one thing, and if that one thing is just it just does not meet the expectations of dumb people, then you just never know how low it can drag the entire market. But luckily, Nvidia, as you said, JP was able to show strength, even though the price does not really show it. Um, the numbers on Nvidia looks great. As to what exactly happened with price, as JP wanted me to explain about volatility crush, it's very simple. Before earnings, the IV increases on contracts. So if the price of the stock does not move significantly in the way that you want it to, then the contracts deflate in price once the market opens after the earnings are done and reported. So a lot of people I know actually got Nvidia calls and Nvidia puts and even QQQ calls and puts, especially calls because everyone was really bullish on Nvidia earnings, but a lot of them got lost a lot of money because it went nowhere. After earnings came out, it was pretty flat, and this is honestly what I expected. I didn't expect anything different. I didn't expect even if Nvidia did bad in earnings for the price to just dramatically drop, and I didn't expect the price to inflate into the sky if it did do well in earnings. Because at this point, we just have too many investors in this, and whenever something has a lot of hype, even though, as I said, Nvidia is a really great company, dumb investors end up making dumb choices, and then there's a whole domino effect to it. But luckily, Nvidia did do really well in earnings, and the numbers showed it. Now the chart just needs to show it. For me personally, I've had Nvidia shares for quite a while now, but I always like adding at places that look great for my long term or even for my intermediate accounts. You could see here that on the daily, we've bounced off of the 140.97 level, which is a prior all-time high. So that's good. We did also Friday itself. Wait, what? No, Thursday itself. When earnings was released, we bounced off of that. So it shows that there's still buyers available, and if price does break below that range, the next place I would look to possibly add shares is around 130 or 129.99, right? It doesn't really matter to be exact, but that's where I would personally add shares. I think up here is just way too high. So I'd rather just wait for it to come down. Um, a lot of people are just very bullish on the stock, so for Nvidia to go down as much as people fear it to, I don't think really that's so much of an expectation, but I really would prefer if Nvidia does have a small cool off. I'm sorry if that does hurts people's portfolios and stuff like that, but overall it's for the greater good because then the market will become a lot healthier, right? You would want other tech stocks to lead the way heading into 2025. At least that's my opinion. If it's just Nvidia that's just making all-time highs, and then stocks like Google or Meta and all these other stocks are just not doing anything, that means the second Nvidia starts underperforming in, let's say, the next earnings or just in price action in general, the entire market will just come toppling down. So you'd want the other Mag 7 like Meta, Google, Microsoft. Microsoft looks a little bit better, right? Because we had a decent consolidation time period. So you'd want these other tech stocks to start upping up their bullish sentiment and start helping Nvidia with the I guess you could say the weight, right? Because if it's just Nvidia going up, then 2025, it's not like Armageddon, but you can expect a stronger downside versus if the other tech stocks start following the usual trend, which JP and I always talk about, which is near December, when you get the near year of end rally. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for the major tech stocks to start rallying into the upside, which could then help relieve stress off of Nvidia as a company and as a stock, which could then bring a lot more health into the stock market, in my opinion, and can allow Nvidia to cool off a little bit, right? Because again, numbers are great. So if it can cool off, come down to 129 or even 120, and then start making rebound after that, that would be great. But if it's just gonna, come down and the other tech stocks are not gonna be pulling its weight while Nvidia is going down, then you could possibly guess for there to be a downturn heading into, or at least into the early 2025 months. But tying in, so we're gonna head on over to the tickers. The stocks we're per se looking at. I'm gonna go over what I'm looking at very briefly, and then I'm gonna ask JP if he's anything he's looking at. So he actually mentioned before about oil stocks. So the stock I'm invested in when it comes to the energy sector is Oxy. I think Oxy is a really great chart compared to the other other energy stocks such as like XOM. Oxy is just very undervalued in terms of price. Let me bring up actually. I'll show you XOM side by side with Oxy. It's very simple. Whenever you want to try to find what is undervalued in a sector and you believe a sector is going to rally, based on your own analysis or research, it's really great to find the lagging stock, and that's very important to do in my opinion. So I like always, if I'm bullish on energy, and obviously since Trump is becoming president, you can infer that energy stocks will be a lot more favorable heading into his presidency. So I would like going with the more undervalued stock versus a stock that's already doing well, right? XOM is a great choice. I already have XOM shares, but I've added more heavier into Oxy because it's quote unquote undervalued in price on the chart versus XOM. So I've added Oxy shares down here. I entered at when was this? 50.79. This was after the fib bounce that I had on the daily off of the 38 percentile. So I wanted to see it break above this range, heading later on in 2025, and actually try to make new all-time highs for Oxy. So that's the energy sector stock that I'm looking at. When it comes to the swings that I took last week, you guys saw some tickers that we don't commonly trade. A lot of them, the whole reason why last week was a bunch of tickers that we don't usually trade is because Nvidia earnings was happening, right? The greatest thing is to always be safe and be methodical. So that's why I tried to choose stocks that were not heavily tied in with Nvidia's earnings. So to begin the week, we had Square, which did phenomenal on the calls that we got. I think the calls went over. Let me see very quickly, but I know they did pretty well. Square looks amazing on the weekly chart. You could see that it's broken above a weekly resistance. You can put your resistance wherever you want to indicate wherever the top of the range is, right? There's 3 possible areas you could do that. But regardless, whichever area you look at, we've broken above that range for Square. Now, does that mean next week and the week after that will be extremely bullish? Maybe, maybe not. but I personally see Square actually testing some good numbers here. Last week we talked about volume profile, and you could see here clearly what we talked about, which is when you have a huge volume shelf, which indicates a lot of consolidation. When you break out of the beginning of that peak or that volume shelf, you usually can expect or infer that there's going to be a strong movement afterwards. So if we were to draw a fib here, let me just remove the previous strongs that I added. If you draw a fib here on Square, this the bearish fib, right? You could see the ultimate target for me personally would be 164.97, which is $165. But I've already got shares. I've got it around $60 and below. So I'm trying to hold it till that area over here. But Square is a really great stock. Especially if you're bullish on crypto. I actually didn't know this until recently. One of the things you might or might not know about me, I'm not a huge fundamental guy, so I'm very very behind on the fundamental analysis. But Square is also tied into crypto, so there's that. So if you're bullish on crypto, you can technically, I guess, be bullish on Square over here. Another trade we took which went amazing was gold calls. Gold calls went over, I think, like 300 or 200%. We got them on, when did we get them? I think we got them Tuesday. So Tuesday or Monday, that's when we got the gold calls, and they went amazing. Obviously, gold, JP can correct me if I'm wrong. Gold usually finds a lot of interest when there's a less, what's the word? Confidence in the market is that's correct, right, JP?
That's
So
correct.
yeah,
It
so
was it's a hedge,
yeah,
and gold pumped on multiple factors. Um, Platinum was pumping, palladium was pumping, all of the
yep,
materials were pumping. I'm sorry, all the metals were pumping, and the whole situation in the Ukraine, I'm sorry, in Europe added towards the bullish momentum of adding precious metals to portfolios.
gotcha. Yeah, so that definitely helped with the gold calls, which we did get on Tuesday, which went 190%, which was great. So I'm happy about that. The next trade we took was Oracle, another beautiful chart, another beautiful trade. That ended up going 490%. So this is even a greater trade. We got this on Monday. Where's Monday? Just so I could show you what I was looking at. But so the reason why I got the calls on Monday was because Oracle is very bullish. You could see if I turn to the weekly chart, it's just been doing amazing. And there's a lot of upside to the stock in my opinion. So I like catching bull flags on stocks that have a lot of upside. So you can see here on Friday we had a very subpar in what's the word? We had a very subpar. Um, damn, my mind is blanking on me. Basically, investors didn't know what was gonna happen. So, so on Monday, you can see we got a very bullish candle, and you guys know me, I'm all price. So I like the wick to the downside. I saw the nice candle to the upside. So I'm like, okay, all right, Oracle call time. So we got Oracle calls. They went 490%. I wish I got more time on them. Unfortunately, I had them expiring this Friday. I see, I see room all the way up to 205 heading next week. So I wish I got more time. I didn't, boohoo. It happens. The next trade we got, of course, which a lot of people got into, was Coca-Cola. This is a trade that JP and I have been eyeing for a while now. And it's funny, the second I've been eyeing at this level, the 61.39, with the downtrend it's been having the past weeks. I've been just waiting to add shares, and not only shares but also calls at this area, because as I've always stated, the easiest level you can always find is a previous resistance that's turned into support, and it turns into support once price breaks above it, right? So this is a resistance turned into support. You could see here, we had a nice test of it on Friday last week, and then Monday opened up and we couldn't go below that level, which indicates that there's a higher probability that buyers are there and able to push the price up in their favor, right? So there's interest in Coca-Cola. So not only did I buy calls, which I bought on Wednesday, which were the Coca-Cola 64 calls, which expire on December 6th, but I did actually enter shares on Monday itself for Coca-Cola. So we have a nice fill here on shares for my long term. And the calls we added on Wednesday, which had a really great candle. The reason why I entered on Wednesday, I would have entered on Tuesday, but I unfortunately was busy. But we have a really great wick to the downside, which represents the amount of strength there was with the buyers compared to the sellers. And you could see here, the rest is history. We've had really great days on Thursday and Friday for Coca-Cola. The calls ended up going 180%. So really great. When it comes to Coca-Cola, because I know a lot of people were actually in this trade, there is potential. There's still potential upside, but the truth is, you always have to also look at it candle by candle. You could see here Friday's candle wasn't the most bullish candle. Not saying heading into Monday, it's gonna come down, but it maybe might take some time to reach, up to 67.25. So maybe the path you're looking at for price here is, let's say Monday for some reason opens up bullish, you might get some, weird down, like not weird, but slow downward movement. And it'll test, like, you could eye this right here. You could see there's a level around this area, right? So maybe it could come over here, test this, and then bounce off of this. And what you'll get here, right, for those who know Elliott wave theory, you have a proper ABC wave, which is the correction wave. And then after that, what you'll do is you'll continue the impulse wave, which is the thing you want to catch, right? So this was theoretically, this is too many things. Let me delete it 1 second. So right here is technically your first impulse wave. This is usually the smallest. And the wave that's the biggest is the second wave, right? The second impulse wave. This is where retail traders and institutions usually buy in. Usually institutions are the one that pushes this move. They're the cause of it. And the second wave is the institution traders and the retail traders. So it would be really great to keep an eye on Coca-Cola, because if you do get a nice retracement that's slow, steady, and has consolidation and shows that it's still staying above a level that you find crucial, this could potentially see a lot more upside heading into end of December and even next year. Coca-Cola is referred to as a safe haven. Safe havens are technically stocks that would do at least okay or well in a recession market or a bearish market. A few reasons. One, of course, everyone knows Coca-Cola has decent dividends, and also it's just a very steady stock, right? You go to the weekly, monthly, whatever you want to look at, it's just been bullish for a long time. Very stable, very slow moving. But in markets where you see a lot of volatility, this would be technically a thing you would look at for shares or options, whether it be long-term options. The next trades I wanted to talk about before I hand it over to JP was Comcast. So Comcast, this was I love this trade. Unfortunately, I exited like an idiot for 30%. These contracts ended up going, I believe, like 150 or 200%. But the reason I entered, very simple. I really love this candle on that we had on Wednesday. As you could see, the wick to the downside, really great, and it's above an important level, which you can see here, which was 42.66. Prior resistance, prior support, kept on switching over and over. So we closed above it, which indicated a decent strength to the upside. But you could see the push we had. We opened up higher than the previous day's close, and I ended up exiting for 30%. I wish I held, but everything is 2020 hindsight. So Comcast is really great. I personally think it's great for shares as well. I have not picked up shares on it because I'm not very fond of these two candles over here. Of course, this was after earnings, but after you get like a weird price action like this, I kind of want to see how strong this level will be at 42.66. But I personally know JP is bullish on this stock. So, but moving on to the next trade we took. The next trade we took was, I believe it was MRK. MRK was an okay trade. Just went up. How much did it go up? Just 50%, which is a lot lower than what we're used to. We got it on Thursday. You could see here the peak. It just tested 101 and it rejected after that. When it comes to shares for this stock, MRK has been a stock that JP and I have been personally looking at. And when it comes to the health sector, the ETF you can always look at is XLV. And you could see XLV is trying to pick up steam here. on the daily and the weekly chart. So XOV's biggest holding is Eli Lilly, which is LLY, and another holding that it has is MRK. And MRK was just always very undervalued in terms of price compared to its competitors like you know, what's it called? Eli Lilly, Johnson and Johnson, right?
Either.
And Pfizer, of course. Thank you, JP. So you could see like once it gets out of this price divergence, there's a lot of upside to it. It's just the fact that every single time, because I remember we got shares and calls, both JP and I over here. I don't know if it was over here. It was just somewhere in this area, and it looked promising, but it could not hold that support. It just rejected, and we had a similar thing happening here on Friday. So I just want to see how it reacts near this level. You were gonna say, JP?
Yeah, it was at it's at 10, I think it's at 101.79 level that it just couldn't, it can't break and close above that. It's been tormenting. I I uh I was looking, I was trying to take Pfizer. I called Leighton and I asked Leighton what he thought about Pfizer. He liked Pfizer, but he doesn't trade that, he doesn't trade these dogs. He calls them dogs, but Pfizer actually ended up making a nice move. And then I actually took a Moderna call. I didn't say anything to anybody. I just kind of Moderna is such a volatile stock and mRNA. Um, and I was just looking at it and I'm like, I kind of want to take this. And I put a feeler, just one contract, and it did pretty well, but it just seems like it was kind of just it looks like what happened was there was a little bit of a rotation on Friday. It was, exit liquidity on some tech and, rotating into some dividend stuff. So I don't know how much further the pharmaceutical sector is going to go. But yeah, that MRK trade, when you talked about it, I actually, when you text me, I was like, yo, I actually took it way ahead of you.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
was in an hour before you actually put out that trade idea. And I was like, no way he's seeing the same thing. But I was sitting in pain. I know you got like 50 or 60% out of that, I think,
Yeah.
when
50.
you trade.
Excuse me.
I
Yeah.
only
50%.
got 25% out of it and then I cut it. And then the same thing with Coca-Cola. When I called you on the phone, I said, listen, I really like Coca-Cola calls. I had taken the January calls for, I think it was the 65 January calls,
Yeah.
and I only got like 25 or 30% out of it, and then I just closed it. And then the same thing happened with Oxy. I was like, again, I, 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 I had Oxy shares. I liked my calls. I had the January calls as well because I was getting time, but they weren't moving as fast as I wanted them to. So like you might have gotten 70, 80% on maybe 2 weeks out. I only got like 20 at one given point. I got 30%, but it was because of spread for January calls, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna close this and get it over with. But yeah, I mean, we were pretty much in the same trades. I took a couple of other things, but once you're done explaining what you took, I'll get into that because we kind of been seeing the same things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No. Absolutely. I think the last thing I'll talk about. Actually, no. I have two more stocks, and then I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, we talked about Duke
Yep.
for so long.
I know. I know. This upsetted me a lot because you guys
Yeah,
know me. I am the most greediest trader out there. Meaning I hold my runners like crazy. This Duke call I got
yeah,
on,
no,
when did I get this?
108. Yeah.
Yeah, I got this on Tuesday. And my dumb self exits the next day for 5%. And lo and behold, 2 days
One-time volley.
afterwards, yeah, it just goes, the contracts literally shift all the way up to like 150% or something like that. I was like, "Oh my goodness, you got to be kidding me."
Yeah,
It's
but don't forget that we got the insight on Duke back in June. Remember
yeah.
when we were told to look at Duke and NextEra Energy because of the whole data situation, the
Yep.
data center electrical usage, whatever, the data center power. Uh, oh my God, I can't speak
Shortage.
English.
Yeah.
Shortage, yeah, exactly. There was a shortage of power, um, and that these companies were going to be super profitable because they were going to jack up the fees. And dude, we could have just bought shares at 94, 95. This is what pisses me off when we get the inside on something like this, and then boom. And then you know what sucks? Did you see that text message I sent you this morning
You
in
texted me
in
this
our
morning?
group chat with the big guy with the guys?
Oh no, I've not.
Look at it. Look at what it says, please. Oh, there's no. There's only three texts in there, and they're all me. Look
I
at the link from CNBC.
my my thing's downstairs, my iPad.
I'll
Oh
just
wait,
read
oh
it to
wait,
you.
you're talking about the article which has to do with like a possible shortage or
Yeah,
something,
the
or the
data
data
centers
centers.
powering.
Yeah,
Yeah, the data centers powering artificial intelligence could use more electricity than entire cities. We knew we actually that's a lie. We were told this since the beginning of the year, dude.
yep.
Since January they told us, and we just completely overshadowed this. Like everything else, just that's upsetting, man.
So JP's a very happy person about this. But yeah, so
Fuck, dude.
it sucks. I mean, I remember that I remember also trying to play this bull flag here,
We
during the
spoke to
summer.
Leighton about
Yeah,
this.
just did not. The contracts didn't work that well, and then we should have gotten shares. We went with options instead. That was the wrong choice. So
Look
we
at
definitely.
NE, look at NEE Nextera really quick.
Okay,
Did it do the same move? Yeah,
it's okay, JP. It's all right. Don't worry.
yeah, I know.
I, but yeah. So actually tying all the way back to med
Oh
stocks,
yeah, AB.
AbbVie. So
Yeah.
yeah. So this one, I didn't post this trade, but I got into calls, and it was actually it's funny. I got leaps. I got like January calls for AbbVie on my long term, and I got them. I got them on no, I got them on Monday. The reason I got them was because you could see this there's like a miniature level right here. It's weird, but this entire area, I was not just specifically looking at the level, but at what I was looking at is I was just looking at this area, right? You have a you can call it whatever you want as long as you understand that it's an area where there's going to be interesting buyers. That's all that's important. The technical term is a demand zone. So you could see we were holding a demand zone, and I got calls. And the funny thing is these calls actually like went up 700% in the span of 3 days, and I did not expect that. I remember I like went back to the account and I was like what the hell is going on? Because one day I saw it was down 15%, which was Tuesday, and wait, right? Yeah, Tuesday it was it was down 14%, and the next day it's up 30%, and then the next day I see like up 300, and then the day after that it's up 700. I was like, oh my goodness. So Avi is something very interesting to look at. It has a
You
really
want to
nice.
know why? You want to know why AbbVie pumped? I can tell you what happened. So
Why?
ABBV is
Yeah.
one of the only pharmaceutical companies that's making a cannabis. A, Nightingale and I were doing research on this, and I think it's ABB is the only pharmaceutical company that has like a patent on some cannabis antidepressant thing. I don't know what it was. It's somewhere in my notes. I'm not gonna dig through the notebooks, but I think it was like on Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday, there was news that the FDA is
Yeah.
considering the approval of some cannabis medication from ABBV that's going to be used on soldiers. I'm sorry, on veterans that are suffering from um, PTSD,
Yeah.
and and AbbVie pumped on that. Unfortunately, MSOS didn't do anything, but that's a different story. But yeah, there was some news regarding that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's. I remember I saw. It's actually pretty cool that TradingView added this thing over here, but I remember I saw something like that, and I was like, oh, of course, cannabis. JP's been talking about this for the past, I don't know how
Oh
long.
man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, JP. I know, but Yeah, I
But it
mean,
has a it
uh
wasn't it so it doesn't have like a cannabis product. It just has the patent on it or something like, what I mean?
yeah,
Um, I don't
yep.
know, dude. Whatever it is, whatever the hell it is that they have the patent on, as soon as this crap gets legalized or whatever it is, or gets scheduled down, this thing's gonna pump or whatever.
I wish I got shares. Honestly, I don't know
Me
why.
too.
I
Me
got
too.
I
Me
got
too.
leaps instead of shares, and I usually like tie those in together. But I mean that just that also just comes to show how frustrated I am that I'm still in college. But luckily it's the last semester, so I'm gonna go over the three swings I take, and I'm gonna hand it over to you, JP, about what you're looking at. So the one of the first swings that I took on Friday was ABT, Abbott Labs. Um, I just really like this. You guys may or may not know one of my favorite patterns to trade is the ascending scallop. I don't know why people don't remember that pattern. It's one of the oldest patterns out there, and this is appearing like it wants to create that. As you could especially see it on the daily chart. So I want to see it test 119.93. I think with the contracts we got, that should be easily like 60 or 80%, which is great. But of course, I want to go for the big bucks. And if you actually see, the big bucks are if we go to the weekly chart. And you could see here that there's this trend line that we've been struggling with the past 4 or 5 weeks here on ABT. And we broke above it. And we've been trying to hold on to this trend line. So we have a nice little bull candle this past week, and if ABT breaks this, I personally think that it can actually try testing all-time highs all the way up at 130, whatever this is, 134.81. So that's the reason why I got ABT. It's just something very interesting to look at. The contracts move very nice on these, so if they go our way, it's pretty nice. Only thing I don't like about it, I'm not a huge fan of the recent candle. Yes, it does have a wick to the downside, but the wick to the upside is somewhat concerning, especially when it's equal to around this area where you see multiple rejections. So that's my only concern for a trade. Moving on, we have a company that barely anybody knows exists, which is Kraft Heinz Company, which I believe
Yay.
creates the the ketchups bottles and all the weird jalapeno ketchup things that we try to eat and think if it gives us cancer. But you could see the daily looks really nice. I wish I picked up shares on this. I wish I looked at this earlier, but I do have calls. That's what I got on Friday. I do want to see this testing. My passive target is 33, 35. But if I were to be aggressive, I think I think it tests the top of this channel, however you want to draw it. If you want to draw it low, if you want to draw it high, whatever. Um, the moral of the story is I think it tests near here. I might find some hesitation around 33.72, which is why I had a passive target. As you can see, this is like a general area where you've seen some hesitation. So if we could get here, this would be great. This would be like 80% or 100%. And then I would always leave runners to test the possibility of my aggressive target of where I want it to go. So that's why I got KHC, which by the way, it has a really interesting weekly chart because it's just been in a complete range ever since 2021. But it's come down all the way from $69. So it's an interesting stock. Doesn't move so much in terms of volatility and breaking out of the range, but it has a nice setup. So I got that. The last one I want to go over is Caterpillar. Reason I got into this is because again, the if you ever want to look at sectors, you could look at the spiders, as JP always says. The XLI, which tracks the industrial sector, has been just doing amazing. It's just bull flag after bull flag, especially after Trump was elected president. You probably would see these kind of sectors doing really well. And you could see here that XLI is in a bullish channel, and you might see it trading within this channel for a decent amount of time, right? Probably all the way up to 150. So with that in mind, lo and behold, what's XLI's biggest holding? And this biggest holding is Caterpillar. And that's why I got the calls here. Not only did XLI look bullish, but The fact that we have a bull flag over here looks really great. I don't know if you guys remember, 2 or 1 month ago, I actually got Caterpillar puts. I thought this was going to break down all the way down to 355. I was completely wrong. And the great thing is, the fact that I was completely wrong back then actually favors us right now. So what I mean by that is, if I see a pattern like this, which is of course the descending scallop, the fact that this descending scallop did not really play out, like yes, you could consider this, but this was earnings. So the fact that it did not really play out shows that there's a lot of interested buyers around this range, especially with the pump we saw with after Trump was elected, we could see a possible push into the upside. So this is a great stock I personally think to own share wise as well, because you see it's not like too far away from the median, which would be around 240 or 250. So I think it still has upside. So yeah, I mean those are the stocks I'm looking at. So JP, you could go ahead and then we'll go into the ticker requests you guys have. While JP talks, uh, we don't want to go over so many tickers, just because we do want to get into the important topics that we wanted to talk about. So feel free to ask your questions or ask the tickers in the Ask Us channel. That's the channel we primarily look at, and not the live sessions or the main chat. So that would really help. But yeah, go ahead, JP. What are you
Yeah,
looking at?
so Kevin, I'll give you the five main things that I was looking at. You already went over two of them, but just a quick recap. Obviously, Occidental, you can just type that up really quick. And I can just, show you what I was
Oxy?
looking at as well, so we can just kind of have an
Okay.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that same trend line. I was looking for it to hit above $58. We kind of stalled that at around that $52 mark. I had shares and I had calls. I was able to close my shares and I closed my calls both in profit. I think that was a great setup. I think everybody is watching Occidental because it's so oversold
Yep.
and it has that $50 support. I would like to see it continue to go up, but oil is so volatile the past couple of months
Yeah.
that I kind of just treating it like, a quick day trade here and there. Same thing with Coca-Cola. I loved Coca-Cola. I called you on the phone about it. We both saw the same trade. I exited. I actually only played options on it. Made, I think it was 20-30% for January calls. I still think there's upside to it. There is that weird little $65. Um, I
Yep.
think it's 65 or 64.50. I can't remember what my level is because I don't even have my Trade open. But my Trading View open, but it always has like a little bit of a problem right there. So let's see what happens. Um, the next ticker symbol that I took, the next ones that I took, I only bought shares. So I bought Verizon shares, VZ.
Verizon. Yeah.
Yeah, VZ, I've been watching this and
Oh yeah.
trading it like crazy. I took the Verizon shares that made us a lot of money. Like I forgot when it was, but it was a while back. And then I saw a setup on shares. Those shares went up 1.72%. I believe I took them on Thursday and I closed out on Friday. So that was a great trade. I think Verizon still has room up. I want to see Verizon get above 45. One of the biggest things about Verizon is that it has a 63% short interest on it. I don't know why it's so heavily shorted right now, but if this thing can get above this 44, $45 price range, it has a clear path all the way to 49 or 50 if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to continue to watch that and see what it does. I personally really like Verizon as a share trade because it has a nice dividend that it pays. It's not as good as T-Mobile, I'm sorry, not as good as
AT&T.
AT&T.
Yeah.
AT&T, yeah, but I think it's still a great, it looks like it still has a lot of room up. I like trading Verizon with at least 45 days on those contracts because it has a tendency to stall out and then it makes a move and then you're just sitting kind of on in pain for like maybe, a couple of days and then you're getting crushed by theta. Can you look at the daily chart really quick?
Yeah. Sure.
Because I know you're looking at the weekly.
I'm looking at the daily right now.
Oh yeah, I see the data now. So it's if you get trapped on Verizon on that consolidation zone, like right there back in August, if you move your mouse, yeah, if you get stuck, no, no, all the way where it's just kind of traded sideways, that little block, yeah, if you get stuck in Verizon there, you're just gonna kill yourself because of theta. But you can see that whenever it does make a move, it's pretty violent. So Verizon is on my watch list. I traded it, closed it, and it is what it is. I'll look for another opportunity to get in. The other company that I had been watching very closely was Unity. You know that I owned Unity at $15. And I took that trade and I wrote it up to like, I think it was 18 or 19. And then I ended up getting out of the position. I did have an opportunity to get back in um, earlier this month, but I don't know why I think I was obsessing over another stock, which I'll talk about, and I kind of just took my eye off Unity. Um, I really do believe in this company. I think this company has a lot of room to go. It is a little bit toppy up here at around $24 or 24, 25. I would love to see it break above that and go. I day traded the hell out of it on Friday. I was in and out because it was moving so violent. Um, but I couldn't even take I couldn't even take share options on it because the premium on it was so expensive and the IV was so high that I just didn't even know what to take, right? And one of the things that I'm a big fan of is like I love AI, but like what's the next big story? And one of the only things that to quote the CEO of Microsoft, one of the only things that is basically inflation proof is software. And I think that anything that's software related is going to do well. Um, and Unity, of course, is software related. Snow, of course, is software. No, Snow. No, Snow wasn't. Is Snow software or is that
Uh,
it's cloud services? I mean, I always forget what Snow does. Maybe
Snow
somebody
is
can enlighten me.
package software, whatever that. Do you know
Okay,
what that
yeah, so it's
means? Yeah.
software. So anything that's software related, I think is going to do well. So, and I also am keeping a close eye on the on the gaming sector. Not that I'm watching EA or anything like that, but I think that going into 2025, 2026, we are going to see a little bit of like an upgrade, even a bigger upgrade towards like the gaming dynamic um, of the market. I just have a weird feeling that talk of town going into 2025 is going to be about gaming, 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 and and Sony and Nintendo and all this stuff. So I'm keeping a close eye on Unity. And last but not least, the company that I'm watching with a hawk's eye, I bought shares, I'm still holding, and I'm up 3.5% is Nike. Um, I literally took Nike at $75 flat and it's currently, I believe, at 77.50 or 77.40. Um, I love Nike here. I think there's a lot of room to go. I didn't take this on for any reason other than the fact that I just like that it maintained above 70 and it held above 73. And I didn't mind taking the shares at 75 and, having the stop loss on a break below 70. Um, Also, I kind of did see that falling wedge pattern on the daily.
Yeah,
It
this
wasn't like
thingy.
a huge,
It's
it wasn't a huge falling wedge,
it
but it
was
was kind of
just
there.
yeah, it was just like price divergence. It was an
Yeah, it was
ugly falling
price
wedge, but yeah, I
divergence
see
or
it.
whatever. Like if you draw, yeah, it's like a little ugly little wedge there,
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
Um, and I saw that and I'm like, I got a feeling this thing is gonna get people are going to start talking about it. And lo and behold, it was talk about getting into a stock again at a perfect time, like I did with Siri right before Buffett said that he had a big position.
Yep.
Bill Ackman apparently initiated another buy on Nike, right? He took another big position. And then suddenly it got upgraded by Needham. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Because if you want anyone to upgrade a position that you're in, you want Guggenheim, you want Needham, you know what I mean? Like these are the companies, you want Cantor Fitzgerald. You're like, oh, thank you, God. Because those are like the traders. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when those guys put stuff out, it's like when Heidenberg comes out and says that they're shorting or Citron that they're shorting a company, everyone's like, "Oh, damn." So I would like to see Nike bust through this $85 level and reclaim the 96 range, I'm in for the long run. This I'm not planning on selling. I have about 20% of my portfolio is in this position, which is kind of a substantial amount, but I believe it. I believe in it. I'm gonna put my stop to entry on shares and then see what it does and then go from there. But I'll leave one last stock that I continue to watch, and you already know what it is. It's Celsius. I
Oh
mean,
my dude,
I know,
why?
I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know.
Um,
I took
yeah.
Celsius at exactly this same level a couple of weeks ago because a buddy of mine that works at Slate Stone, which is a big financial advisory firm, had for some reason he had heard that Celsius was going to get involved with F1 and they were going to become one of the biggest sponsors for the F1 Abu Dhabi race and that they were going to be getting involved into the Premier League and Serie A, which is soccer for those of you that don't know, or as we call it, football. Um, and none of that crap happened, or maybe it was just like some random intern said something at Celsius, which suddenly became a thing. And I got crushed. I got wrecked. I got wrecked on shares. I lost a lot of money. And then there was a double bottom. I wanted to buy at 22, but the thing would go up 10% one day, then come down 5, then go up 5. It was volatile. I mean, I like it. I really want to be in it. I hate that it missed on earnings. The earnings were a complete disaster. I think they came in like at negative. Can you hover above the earnings?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
negative.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So,
You
um,
know, so I don't know. Technically it looks good, but it's also become a bit of a meme stock. Like everyone on Reddit is talking about it, and it's kind of annoying. I like the story. I'm gonna keep an eye on it and then kind of go from there. Oh, and one more, Hims. I keep talking about Hims. I really do believe that this company is undervalued. I know you own shares. I
mhm.
really want to be I really want to own it at $15. I tried picking it up at around 19 or 20 when
Yeah.
Amazon came out with their whole news about how they're going to have this telehealth crap, right? And then again, I got distracted and I wasn't paying attention, but this thing keeps going and again, I think Hims is a $50 stock, and I almost just want to buy it and hold it and forget about it. But I'm just gonna have to wait.
Yeah, I mean my average on Hims is a 13.30. So like I did recently add around $23. So I mean I see what you're seeing, JP. I mean I think there is a bunch of upside. It's definitely risky to
It
have a
just
normal
dropped
position.
10% out of nowhere.
Yeah. That
I don't
one
want to
news
like,
brought the stock down like
dude.
30%.
Like,
Yeah.
here's the thing, right? Okay, like I'm not saying that this is a lot of money, but it's a lot of money. You put 5 grand in this, and you're like, la 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 la. I'm gonna go take a poop. You go to the bathroom, and you come back, and the thing is down 12%.
Oh, it's down
And then and then and
37%
then
one
you
day.
then you cry, then you massively cry. You cry violently, right? And then you come back and it's up percent. So it's like, I don't know.
I
It
feel you,
sucks.
dude.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Um, and yeah, like in time back to what you were saying about Celsius, like I don't like being a pessimist about certain stocks, but there's just some stocks that just aggravate you. Um, I'm a huge price guy, so like I remember we got that one swing on Celsius which went like 1,300%, and it was this one, and it did really great. But you could see any single time it had a bull flag after that, it like 9 out of 10 times it didn't work. And it's just one of those stocks that have very high IV and high expectations. And when those expectations are not met, the IV just keeps on increasing and the price just keeps on decreasing. So it's not just been a
You
great.
know,
It's just not been great. But uh,
this
yeah.
stupid company frustrates me more than BA.
Oh
And
wait,
I hate BA.
uh, before we get into BA, I mean the only time I will get into Celsius shares
it
is
breaks
if
it
it
closed at about 31. I know.
yeah, yeah. It breaks it closed and it comes retests it. I'm not gonna get fooled over here and get in over here because you could see what happened the past two times. So I'm gonna wait. Goes back above, comes out and retests it, and then I'll definitely get into shares because then that'll be great.
You know what
So
this reminds me of? This
I'll be head and
reminds me of
shoulders. Yep.
when I took Uber. You don't
Oh,
open up the Uber chart, don't type it. And I
okay.
just kept
All right.
adding and adding and adding and adding until I was like $75,000
Yep.
in Uber. And I just kept adding and adding and adding and bringing my average down. Dude, I was buying 250 shares at a time on Uber. 250, 250, 250, 250. I was going nuts, bro. This is the same thing. Like I feel like I could get trapped in this thing. And
I
I
know.
would. And I
Yeah.
know what I would do. I would just keep buying more and buying more and buying more and buying more. That's what's gonna happen to me if I get into this shit.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'd rather wait for it to break above, make a high, and then come down. And then the great thing is, if it comes down and then actually shows support, you'll then have an inverted head and
An
shoulder,
inverse head and shoulders, yeah. The
and
thing
that'll
is,
be
you know what
strong.
sucks about
Yeah.
this is you can't even trade leaps on it because the premium on it is so
Oh,
high,
dude, it's like
and the IV
100%.
sucks.
Yep. Yep. Dude, the IVs are freaking high. You know, for those who don't know or do know, it's on our YouTube channel. There's the wheel strat, which basically is where you implement selling options, whether it's puts or calls. And the Celsius used to be like the one of the better stocks to sell puts on, but even now it's just getting risky because the premiums are amazing, but the stock just keeps on going down. You're like, oh shit, wait, am I actually going to be assigned on this? Do I want to be assigned on this? So, it's a ghetto stock. Let's just put it like that. It's just going nowhere. But yeah. So we'll
And
talk
then
about
last
B.
but not least, you just look at BA really quick, and
Of
then
course,
if
yeah,
you can run through what everyone is looking at, and you can kind of do your analysis, because I got to walk away for like 2 seconds for 2 minutes.
yeah.
So this is a perfect example of why I always talk about securing profit. So I had taken 1 second, please. I had taken BA. I can't even find my trade idea. Where is it? I had taken BA calls. Oh, not to mention SOXL was another disaster for me. Um, I had taken, I think it was January BA calls. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, there it is. No,
December.
taking B,
JPAT said it was the
taking
December 20th
going December
160
20th,
calls.
160 calls at
Yeah.
153. I sat on this stupid thing for days. Since it's longer than I like to hold options. I think I took this trade idea on the 18th, bro. So on the 19th, it was up 11%. And then it went up 25%. I didn't trim. And then I sat on this and I said, oh, congrats, everyone. If you got 25% out, blah, 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 blah. Right? Then it went to 33%. This is on the 20th. And then this thing, the stupid CEO comes out and says, "Oh, this is my name is stupid CEO of BA. We're at the worst time of the company." What do you say? This is the worst. This is the lowest point of the existence of BA, and we need to change it around. Why would you say that, bro?
Did he actually say that?
He
What the
literally
fuck?
said that BA was at its lowest point ever. Like, what kind of crack are you smoking, bro? Like, what kind of crack are you smoking? Why would you come out and say that when you don't think that that asshole is looking at the options premium and that he doesn't have people that are looking there like, hey, bro, you know something, dude. Like, I would be careful what you would say because, you know, this thing is picking up some heat and we don't want to, shake up anything. No, 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 bro. Screw that. I'm gonna go and make a statement saying that BA is at its lowest point ever and that we have to change things around. Why?
Yeah, he said.
Why, guy?
Apparently he said morale is at the lowest and it needs to turn
Morale
around.
is at the
That's
lowest.
crazy.
What a cocksucker, bro.
Let's get you, JP.
No, and then you know what happens?
Yeah.
I get stopped out at 25%. I get something at 25%. I gave up and I said I'm going to put 25% stop loss. And then the thing goes to 149. Dude, I'm not trading this anymore. I keep doing this to myself. I do the same thing over and over. I did it with Uber, I do it with Celsius, and I do it with BA. I'm not trading this anymore. I don't care. You know what? I hope BA goes bankrupt.
Hey, hold on. I got shares on it. All right, I just got into shares on Friday, so let's hope it doesn't go bankrupt. I
No,
mean,
no, really? Like, how many times have we been trading? How many times
I
have
know,
I
but look at
told you
this.
BA?
Look at this. You know, you know, you will be the type of person to watch this go up to 200
And then
and
I'm
then
going to
not
buy it
want
at
to talk
200.
about this. Yeah. Not I don't think
And
you'll
then I'm
buy
going to be
it
like,
at
oh, it's going to go
200.
to 300. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so that doesn't mean you have to buy it now, but you could just wait for it to break above a place it's been rejecting, which is
I don't
157.51.
want to own Uber. I'm sorry, Uber. I don't want to own BA at 150. I want to own it at 141, at 145. And then whenever
No,
I buy it, it drops to 139.
it's okay. Don't be pretty about it. Just buy it when it comes up here, breaks above this, comes down, retests this,
It's
bounces off this,
so
and to go.
expensive, bro. Why am I going to pay 157 for this? That's like
Because it's
almost
going
$10 more.
because if it breaks above, it's going to 200 plus. That's your answer. You don't need to get the
Or you're
perfect
telling me to
entry.
buy shares and forget about it.
I mean that's the whole point of buying shares, yeah.
I'm not trading options on this shit.
You don't need to. You can buy shares, and that's not financial advice. But I'm just saying, like, what I personally would do if I want to get a safer entry, because I did get a risky entry, right? I was on my long term, so I just added. But the safest thing is just, hey, where does this keep projecting? And that would be 157.51. So if you break above, there's a huge chance you'll come back and retest that level or around this area, and that would, you find the bounce off of there. It would not be a bad time to get into shares and long it, because I mean look at this weekly chart. It's not, JP, you've been eyeing this because what you're looking at makes sense. What you have here is immense consolidation on a stock that used to be popular, and it was a very strong stock. I remember this huge rally we had, and it's just the options on it are really great when it goes, and this, JP. So if
Yeah,
the
but you want to know
options
what I hate, though? You
start
want to
move,
know what
yeah,
I hate?
tell me.
That every single one of them that I talk to,
Uh-huh.
none of them are buying it. They've literally given up on it. And
And
that's just the thing. They continue to give up on it. They're like, oh no, we own it at like $100 or whatever it is, and blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, you own it at 100. I don't have institutional money. So like, oh yeah, whatever. Well, I don't want to buy it traded anymore. I have it like a dirt cheap. Okay, sorry, I wasn't a dinosaur when Boeing came out, and I wasn't there for the existence of airplanes,
yeah,
George.
no, I
So,
know, I know. So, I
but
mean,
yeah,
hey,
like whatever. Bro.
yeah, they're one of the greatest things you can always look at when it comes to long-term investing. When there's I don't know if you can consider Boeing a solid company, but I guess the way you can consider it solid is because it's an American company, and American companies like literally always get bailed out. And whenever people or investors start giving up on those kind of stocks, and it's just been through a huge moment of consolidation, usually the movement after that is just immense. And that doesn't mean you have to catch the bottom, but that just means you should keep an eye on it, theoretically, to catch the retest of an important level. And that's just my whole thing about it. Like, of
We know
course, if
it's
you have,
not going anywhere. We know it's not going to go anywhere. Nobody had the only
I,
competition
I
it has is
know,
Airbus, and we can't even trade Airbus over here. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, you know what? Maybe I'll just buy 10 shares just to feel like I at least own some of it.
Okay, yeah,
How
yeah.
much is that going to be? That's 1,400 and I'm not going to buy $1,500 worth of this crap. Okay, I'm going to go walk my dog. Go ahead, take over.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead, and while JP walks his dog, we're gonna get into tickers that you guys want to look at, and then once JP comes back, we will head over to the trading the under an LLC, which is a very important topic for those who don't know about it. But yeah, so we'll go through the list over here. I'm just gonna go according to this. The questions I'm gonna answer afterwards, so keep that in mind. BA, I already answered. We already kind of talked about it, but I mean, end of the year is already coming up. If I were to be aggressive, I would say 190. But as you could clearly see from JP's emotion, he doesn't think it's going anywhere. So we'll see. But I think if it were to break out by the end of year, I think maybe it could test 177 and then pat aggressively at 190. But that's a stretch, right? Because it is very true. It's just I can't believe this. The CEO made those kind of remarks. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he wanted to buy shares or whatever. But there's that. So the next ticker you guys requested was Avgo and Oracle. So these are two stocks I love, especially Avgo. Avgo is this really actually a really great stock in my opinion to sell premium on. So like selling puts. For me right now, this is a little bit higher than where I would want to personally buy, but that doesn't mean it's not a great place to buy. You have to look at this general area right over here, and I'll perfect my levels for you guys. So the only two areas I would honestly the only two areas I would ever look at to be bullish on Avgo currently is this 164.16 level and this 138.79. Because you could see here, we talked about this last week. You have a volume envelope, and I know there's still this volume shelf over here, but if it breaks below this level, there is a higher technical chance that it could come down all the way to 138. But it is showing strength here for consecutive days, all the way from Monday, being above this 164.16 level. This technically would be a great options trade because if this goes, it goes, right? Usually trades or usually stocks that hold a level for consecutive days are followed by a strong movement afterwards. So if this does hold and let's say next week it starts going, you could see all the way, you could probably see like passively, it's very easy to just draw a fib and just kind of look yourself. But, around 173 and then of course the previous highs, which would be very hard to get up to because you could see here the movement down was very strong and you do have a big volume shelf over here. But this would be a great thing to look at on Monday itself, because I did see Avgo on Friday, and I did not take it because I don't like this candle right here. Right, if there was a candle like this on Thursday, and it did not go anywhere, and in fact it gapped down, and it's an inside candle, it's not the most prettiest thing to see. So, I'll definitely be eyeing this on Monday, seeing how it reacts. If it's a nice bullish candle with a nice wick to the downside, I'll definitely consider getting into calls for that. The next thing is Oracle. Oracle is a great hold I had on long terms. This has just been up a decent amount the past year. Only thing is, I don't see any great place to buy right now. I think it's getting a little bit overextended, and you could see here in the price. A great thing to realize is whenever you start seeing weak candles a lot, that usually indicates a little bit of a weaker sentiment, right? You could also see that, of course, in the most popular indicator around, which is volume. And if I bring up volume, you could see here that volume is increasing, but price is going nowhere. And usually when volume is increasing, but price is going nowhere, that represents a possible reversal, right? But we can't be too strong-headed with that sentiment because we do have earnings coming up on December 12th, which is about 2 to 3 weeks from now. So what I'm looking at this is the only area I'm looking at it near is 177.94. I believe this is all-time highs for Oracle, so there's no real previous levels to look at. But I've talked about this in the past. A great thing to do is whenever you're at all-time highs for stocks, if anybody ever tells you, hey, there's no levels up here, that's completely untrue. On TradingView and almost any other trading platform like Thinkorswim, there's this thing called trend-based fib extension. This shows you possible areas of interest of where the stock will go to, right? So this would technically either here or here. You would just have to kind of play around with this and try to figure out where you see a lot more sense for the fib extension. But you could see here that it still does have room to 213, and it did break the 50 and the 61 fib extension levels, so it's kind of technically overextended, but still has possible upside. So to play this, I would just be viewing to see what it exactly does, right? The best entry for me for calls or even shares is if it comes down here and bounces off the 177.94. If, the next question is if it makes a tiny little bull flag over here, would I get into it? And the answer is no. The reason why I say no is because there's no real strong level here. There's no real strong movements, which means there's no real strong level. So I will not be buying any calls over here. And I think it's too early to buy puts just because of the fact that earnings is coming up. So, we don't really know what's going to happen. But price, recent price does indicate that the next earnings is favorable to be bullish. So keep that in mind. I hope that makes sense. We already talked about KO, but I'll just brush over that really quickly for those who are just joining in. We got KO shares, on Tuesday this past week, and we got options on Wednesday. Both are doing amazing. We do find some hesitation in a previous hesitation area, which is around 64.52 to 65.40. So what I think would be great for Coca-Cola, I don't want it to just burst through this level. I actually want it to retrace, because if you retrace, find support around this area over here, and then bounce up, this would show a strong possibility for continuation to the upside, right? If you just get a breakthrough and just a breakthrough here, you're looking at possibly what would happen is a test of 67.25 and then a strong, what's it called? Cool off after that, right? And for shares, that wouldn't be the greatest thing. So the best thing for me personally, in my opinion, is if it cools off now, and then if it jumps up after that, the momentum to the upside would be pretty big I almost said in me opinion. So yeah. Let's see, what else did you guys want me to look at? Home Depot, one of my favorite stocks to trade options are. It's truly amazing. This stock is just wonderful. It's going places. This and Lowe's, if you want a cheaper alternative to Home Depot, is not as great as Home Depot, but they kind of move side and side. I guess as of late they haven't, but Home Depot. I mean, you look at this weekly chart, you look at the daily chart. What does that look to you? This looks like the pattern that I always love, and it's the ascending scallop. So we have an ascending scallop again on the daily. That's a really strong candle heading into Friday. Will this gap up onto heading into Monday? Higher probability, because this would be an area where there would be a double top, and you could see here on Friday itself we did not really have a wick to the upside. If I check here on the 2 hour, you can even see here on a smaller time frame than daily, there's still strength heading up into Friday's close. So Home Depot is really great. I think this still has really room to the upside. Again, you can see here we'll just draw out the fib extensions, and you could see the places it's going, right? 433, 444, these are possible areas. And then if it's really strong, it could eventually test 42. I think companies like this and Caterpillar are going to be very favorable heading into Trump's presidency. I might be wrong. I'm not a huge fundamental guy, but JP can comment on that if he ever gets back from
Oh
walking
no,
his dog.
stuff like Caterpillar, John Deere, stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
not going anywhere. It's like
Oh, okay.
every come on,
Yeah.
everybody uses Caterpillar. Everybody buys their crap to build stuff, and John Deere. Everybody with a farm has a John Deere tractor. It's just a matter of if they're selling more or less. So it's like you buy this, you hold it forever, you forget about it.
Yeah. Especially John Deere. That's a really great example.
It went parabolic the other day.
Oh yeah.
I told you. I said, look at John Deere. AMD, man, I'm telling you. We were talking about it on Friday.
Yep.
I got a weird feeling that Lisa Su is gonna come out and say something special about an AMD sometime soon. It
Really?
just it
Okay. All right. Weird
Yeah, I
feeling,
mean
kind of Saturday.
I mean I think everybody hates AMD right now because everyone's in love with Nvidia, but I mean is AMD a gift at 138? You know? or is AMD a gift at 120? You know,
Ah,
is AMD a gift under 150 at this point? You know,
I mean, you are holding a very important level, which is the again the prior resistance over here, and that's 131 to 135. If you the thing we got asked about this was the demand zone, and you guys could go onto our YouTube. There's a video I posted a while, like 2 years ago, about an easy, very easy way of finding demand and supply zones, and you could see you have one here, and it's regarding using the Heikin-Ashi, so you can see you have one here, and Heikin-Ashi always shows the strength of the trend, and you could see there's a lot of consolidation around this period. So what this kind of shows you is there is a potential for AMD to bounce here, but you can't be too confident in it. Like JP said, right? It's more going based off feeling. There's no real setup here except, hey, you can say, hey, there's a demand zone and it's a double bottom, and I completely would agree with you. But then you also have to realize like it is a risky entry. I did personally enter shares on AMD a few days ago or last week, and I think I forgot what entry I got. I'm trying to pull it up right now. But if it does have upside, you can see 160 and 158, and then onwards. Um, but yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
as JP said, yeah.
if you have paper on the side and you want to put on some weight, you know, you could. But I mean, I wouldn't be going heavy right now.
Funny thing
I
is, I
mean,
don't
it's,
know.
you know what's
Yeah.
scary? It's that flush all the way to 120, bro. That shit's scary.
Oh, yeah. I mean, do got the volume gap over here, so it's one thing to definitely look out for. We are holding the volume shelf level, which is the start of it, which is around 133. But as JP said, if it breaks through this, you're testing all the way down to
Scary.
121 and
So scary.
117. Yeah. So
That's so scary. Can you
for s-
imagine being in this trade right now and it flushes $15 on you? Oh my God.
I know, dude. Yeah. I mean, I do have shares. The weird thing is, Thinkorswim is not letting me log in. But whatever. But moving on. So that's our thoughts on AMD. The next thing that was asked was crypto. We'll get into crypto in just a second. Okay, so Baidu. Okay, cool. All right, so Baidu, Chinese stocks. Oh, I love this. Okay, so on my long term, I have shares in Baba and Baidu. You can clearly see how I've been doing. I have been crying, right? Um, Again, Baidu, oh my goodness, it's just ugly, right? The earnings came out on Thursday morning, wasn't really great. It did do well on revenue, so there's that. But I added shares at 80.53 because this was a nice little level, but it didn't really, it just broke right below that. But we are still above this demand zone. The only thing that sucks about it is this demand zone stretches all the way down to 75.67. So there's downside to this, similar to Baba. The only thing you're really hoping for is both Baba and Baidu are very strong companies, uh, numbers wise. Their revenues are great. They do really great. Baba especially is amazing, but these companies are just kind of waiting for another kind of news to come out from China, which is where they, um, what did they do last time about the stimulus or whatever? I keep getting this wrong. JP.
They, yeah, they did quantitative easing.
Yeah.
It's just that they injected money into the system.
Yep. So there you go. I mean, another great stock to look at is Neo. This used to be like a meme stock, and I used to agree with you, but um, I would agree with you if you did say that. But right now, it's doing pretty well, especially compared to stocks, Chinese stocks like you know, um, Baba and Baidu. It does have a little bit more upside, so there is that. So I personally have been keeping an eye on Neo. I would say it's a great thing to keep an eye on Neo personally. So yeah, but those are the Chinese stocks. So next one is TMF. I've not heard about this. Probably JPS since he trades bonds.
Treasury yields. This is
Yep.
the 3x, yeah.
Yeah, so actually, since we're looking at TMF, I'm actually going to just switch over to TLT.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, and I was actually going to get calls on
I
TLT.
was gonna get called on this too.
And I think I did. I'm not sure. I know I got them after close, or I did not get them after close. I wish I could see if I could check my uh what's it called, Thinkorswim, but Thinkorswim I guess is under maintenance right now. But this is just a really great area, I personally think, for buying TLT. It's just holding above 89 45 and 90 39. So what are your thoughts, JP?
I don't want to be in treasuries right now.
What makes you say that?
I just don't want to be in treasuries right now. I don't.
Okay, all right, all
I
right,
just
fine.
don't. I think that, we're gonna have a lot of tax harvesting happening now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I It's either gonna happen at the end of December or the beginning of January, and I
Okay.
don't know what yields are gonna be doing. So
Okay.
there's other things I'd rather be in.
Line chart looks ugly too. But I get you. You know, there's potential, but it's just not the greatest potential. You
You
didn't
got to
really get a
reject that
strong.
trend line.
Yeah, exactly. And then yeah, tying into that, you didn't get a good candle on Friday. So TLT, hey, it's there, but you know maybe it's not the greatest time just yet, in our opinion. But the last few things we're gonna go over uh, McDonald's by Randy. Of course, he asked that. But McDonald's is interesting. McDonald's is still bullish, and it did bounce off a fib level, I think, recently. Jeez, this is in the way. But McDonald's is bullish. I mean, you could clearly see that. I think it was a 38 percentile.
And don't forget that McRib is coming back December 3rd, and that's going to be a huge boost in sales, right? Because everyone loves the McRib.
Oh yeah, doesn't this, wasn't there some meme or joke going around where like whenever that comes out, McDonald's stock gets bullish?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
literally if that's what we're living for right now for the McRib, then we got a problem.
yeah. So I mean, hey, McDonald's, in my opinion, is bullish. I'm personally not gonna trade that shit stock. But there is that. You know, it's also holding this daily level right over here. You know, just wherever you want to draw it. So it is holding that, which is 289, around 289. So if this breaks out, you know, you could easily see 304.29 in my opinion. So yeah. The last few we're gonna go over
Yeah, and let's
coin.
let's wrap it up with
No, JP, let me finish this, and then we'll get into the what's it called, the thingy. But Coinbase is ties into crypto. This is the last thing we're gonna go over because we already went over a decent amount. Crypto is looking great. You guys already know Bitcoin is close to hitting 100K. Coinbase is kind of following it. The thing about crypto stocks like MSTR, Coinbase, Mara, they're all gonna have high volatility on their contracts. So a big trap is, you know, trying to sell them and then getting stuck with shares that you don't want. Coinbase is not the prettiest thing, I'll be completely honest with you. But what you do have going for it is the fact that it broke above this trend line. So depending on where, because the reason I'm talking about selling is because they sold a put on coin. So depending on the strike, it really depends of how worried you should be. You do have this level here at 259.79, and that kind of comes close to the trend line. So, you know, Coinbase can easily come down over here and test this and bounce off of this. That's something I'm not too worried about. But if you sold your put around 277 or somewhere around there, you do have a higher probability of getting a sign because this candle close on Friday wasn't the greatest. Of course, you know, crypto rally can definitely change that. You know, I'm not gonna say anything against that. Obviously, the noise in the crowd is MSTR. MSTR contracts are absolutely crazy. The IV is up 200%, which is absolutely insane. You know, I did have the temptation of selling puts for around 178, but even that is just way too risky because this technically, in my opinion, is just a bubble. You could see here the one day on Thursday, the stock came down. How much was this? Came down 31%. So you could see it's very volatile. And this is triggered by crypto and the stock itself. So the numbers on the stock is good, but this stock is just way too volatile. It's up like 400% or something from its low point, which is an insane amount. So definitely something to be careful of. I personally wouldn't trade MSTR. It's just too risky. The last crypto stock I'm going to be talking about is Mara. I think Mara, in my opinion, is a safer bet compared to Coinbase and MSTR. Only reason I say that, because I don't know so much about crypto, I don't really trade it. Only reason I say that is just because the chart is cleaner. You do have a lot more bull sentiment to it. You have breaking out of this, whatever you want to call it, triangle. So there's that, and I personally see 35 and onwards for Mara. I've sold puts on this. I still am selling puts on this. I have shares for this. I have an average of around I think like $10. So I'm up pretty decent. It's a great chart. I think I see it testing 35. But yeah.